Hello.
Hello, hello.
So this week we're talking about relationships. A question that I had was, is finding true love, finding the one, if there is such a thing as the one, if finding the one, is it predestined or do we have to attract them to us? Right? Because a lot of people, you're like, oh, how do I attract love? How do I attract the one? So my question really was, do we even attract them or is it already just predestined? We're bound to meet at some point. We just don't know when that is, right? And the reason why I
Yeah.
wanted to share a little bit of my story was because it was not sort of, I didn't do much, like I didn't do anything. And back then it wasn't like I didn't know about energy and how to attract and law of attraction. I didn't know about any of these things, but I think it was a series of events that led to me meeting him, meeting my husband. So it was sort of like these just happy coincidences or synchronicities that led to us meeting, which if those had not happened, I would have not met him at all, even though we didn't live, we lived maybe 30 minutes from each other, but we would have never met if it wasn't for those things. So in a way, I feel like it was predestined.
Predestined.
And when
Yeah.
I met him, I was like, oh yeah, I knew right away that my intuition was like, I know we're gonna get married. So it was sort of like I knew, but the steps to get there, I feel like I had no sort of control, in these steps. So I would
Yeah.
love to hear your thoughts on this whole topic.
Yeah, that's really cool. Your story is amazing. So as soon as you asked the question, this has been a theme for me all day. So I like how we're getting into the relationship topic because on the last episode we talked about the masculine and feminine. So
Hmm.
it's kind of leading up to this. It's very perfect. And yeah, for those of you that haven't watched it, go back and watch it. But anyways, um both. So I feel the answer is both. Remember, it's always like
Yeah,
and or both.
yeah, that's true.
So it is predestined. We do plan it. We do know what's going to happen or what we'd like to accomplish. But then at the same time, we do have to do the work. We have to clear our energies, clear our chakras. We have to be doing the work. And maybe the path is unconscious to us at the moment,
Hmm.
but then like you said, once you met, once you saw it, once you knew, then it's kind of like, well, oh, now you look back at all those steps that brought you there. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, now I understand that it was really planned out pretty well. It was really intricate and divine timing, and it really had to take place, and everything had to fall in line.
Hmm.
But you do have to do the work to I think everything is like a vibration and you have to match. You had to be ready for each other and you had to match that energy vibration to connect, to
Mm.
magnetize in a sense together.
Mm. Is it just then, would that be correlated to divine timing?
I would think so. I think everything, I think we plan out all the steps and we make sure, like there's no faults. And it's like, by this time, I'll be here. And if not, I'll send this person my way and this person my way and this
Mm.
obstacle and this block until it purges, until then I'm ready for the next cue. And then you go and almost like a game, you're like, you got to go to all the levels. And each time we go through the experience or we see the pattern, we get better and better at working with that obstacle until it's not an obstacle anymore, until we have to win. We know
Mm.
we're gonna win.
Right, right.
Like,
No matter what, yes.
yeah, we know. Now might not consciously remember the plan or the
Right.
blueprint, and that's where working with your angels guides or going into the akashic records or being very spiritually aware, meditating would help, because then you connect back to that part of you that remembers the blueprint, that
Mm.
remembers the plan, and you can get to where you can precog events or at least understand what's happening to you in the moment. That way you can move through it faster.
Mm. And also have access to this, makes me think of intuition because if you don't do this work, you might get intuitive hits of, oh, go there, go to that party, or go to certain places where you would meet that person. But if you're the type to dismiss your intuition, it's just not going to happen. So then, I think then your soul's like, oh, okay, she missed this clue. Let's give her another one. Let's
Let's give another,
orchestrate
yeah.
another event where they could meet.
Yes. Or let's throw in the best friend who drags that person along,
Right.
like then you have the support, we do. And we just don't know that that's what it is sometimes.
What would you say? Okay, so what would you say to people that are maybe not that spiritually aware, but that really want to attract their one and only? So what steps could they take, or what concrete things they could do like today to start doing that? And my question is also, what if you do all these things, but just the timing is not right, right? So you're forcing it, and then you're like, oh, well, I've been doing all the meditations, but it's just not happening. This is where I find it interesting. It's this
Yeah.
balance between, okay, I'm doing everything to align myself with this thing, but if the timing that we set up was like in 5 years from now, sort of like what gives, how do I know when the time is right? I know it's a lot of questions in one. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, those are all really good. I would say with the divine timing, it's divine timing. And it's only that our ego is like, well, I'm doing all these things and it's not happening. It is happening. It's just not happening the way you think it should from your ego's perspective, or it's not happening the way you want it to. And that's expectation. So that, again, that's ego.
Mm,
So getting rid of expectations and your idea of how things are going to go, it's really all about surrendering to the divine blueprint, to yourself. You have to
mhm,
like trust, have faith.
mhm,
It's all of that connection with your higher self and really that friendship with your higher self, that belief within yourself. And that is doing the work. Self love, self care, trust, faith, like those are really hard. And if
mhm,
those are not aligned, then yeah, you are only holding yourself back. And then therefore it's not happening, but it's again, there's only so long that we can be disconnected from ourselves before it's so painful. It's so traumatic. It's so lonely, right? Before we hit that dark night of the soul, before we
mhm,
hit that rock bottom. And then what happens? Then we move past it. So I want to again say that is divine timing. It's preordained. It is the nature, like the law of things for us to want to connect
yeah,
and to connect with ourselves. So tangible things that people could do, well, to if they could realize that concept, that it is all in their control, in their
power.
system.
Mhm,
Yeah, in their power, and take their power back, for one, saying, I'm responsible. I am responsible. And then realizing the work that they really need to do is to come to union first with yourself.
mm,
Because if your energies are not aligned and if you're not balanced within the masculine and feminine, or you're not aligned with your higher self, you will only therefore attract that which you are. So you're going to still be attracting the soulmates that you have the karma with, right? The lessons, the teachers, the obstacles, the blocks. So whatever you are, you're going to bring in those relationships.
mhm,
So instead of looking outside for the perfect person or what you want in that person, or anything like that, ask yourself, are you being what you want in that person? Like bring it all back to your attention to
mm,
yourself. If you want a compassionate, loving, unconditional, all of this stuff, are you being that to others, and are you being that to yourself? And then
mm,
that's where I would start. Start with those, being whole and integrating those aspects that you want in someone else, because you want them for a reason. You want them because you feel like you don't have them. So you
mhm,
feel like that is the space that is empty. So that's the space you need to fill within yourself. So that's a clue. Fill that within yourself. And then once you become aligned, again, it's all inner work creates the outer. right? As above, so below, as in is without. So it's like once you do that on that dimensional level, then there is but no other option for you to reflect
Mm.
and to receive that twin flame union, that harmonious relationship that you've been longing for. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that was the first question I asked myself, and where really started, maybe about even 5 or 6 years ago. I was like, first of all, what do I want? We get so confused on what we want in someone else. You got to get clear. But
Right.
then it was, okay, well, how am I being that? Because what if I find that relationship that I want, but I'm still toxic, or I'm
Mhm.
not bringing everything
Right.
to the table, right? And then I'm going to ruin it. I'm going to destroy that. And so it's like, how can I expect someone else to be that way if I'm not even being that way?
Mm.
You know? And so I think that's where I really started working, was on myself. That's
I
the
love that.
tangible start.
That's amazing. And you know what? It brings me to a question that people might have. So what if they're like, "Yeah, but I'm doing all these things, but maybe the other person isn't doing the things." Right? Because it takes both people to do the work.
Mhm.
So, maybe they're like, "Yeah, well, I've been working on myself, Jeanette. I've been really working hard, but just how can I know maybe the other person isn't doing?"
So, like I said, when you've done the work, you align, you're equal. So if you've done the work, yeah, you might lose relationships because they're not in your highest good.
Mm.
Things might fall away, but you will only attract what you are. So if you've done the work truly, and not just
Right.
egoically, like, oh, I think I've done the work. If you've
Right.
truly done the work, you will attract that equal energy of someone else who's done the work. And then I'd like to make a point about specific with twin flames.
Mhm.
So there's two kinds of ideas of twin flames, and it's one that it's the same higher self incarnated or split into two separate bodies, the masculine, feminine, the dark, the light, the dualities.
Right. Okay.
And they're opposites in a way. Same core values, same spiritual, same core,
Mhm.
um, and virtues and all that. But then in the split, they're the opposites. So we'll talk about that. So that's the
Mhm.
split. Then there's monomic twins, where they say it's to me, this seems almost like a soulmate connection, where they're twins that are two whole selves, but very similar vibration or resonance, like
Okay.
99.99999. So it's like
Okay.
they are the same, but not in that sense. And to me, I would think of more of the mononic. I can't even pronounce it. Twins are more in the higher dimensions, like the 5 and 7D,
Mm.
where you would find that, where you would find that similar vibration. I still believe that. Maybe this is just because it resonates with me, but once you get to Earth and in 3D, it still is like you guys still split into two beings.
Mm.
But what was your question? Because now I jumped off course.
Yeah, no, no, but it's okay. My question was what if they're like, I'm doing everything, but you answered it and the other person isn't doing.
So when you are twins, you have the same chakra system and the same higher self, right?
Okay.
So even though you're split into two bodies while you're incarnated, that gets to the question of, well, I'm doing the work, and what if they're not? So with twin souls, there's a specific game plan. Like they're a team,
Okay.
but they go through it, whereas usually the divine feminine, now this could be a female or male.
Mhm.
Remember, energies are energies.
Right.
So the physical form is really an illusion. So the divine feminine is the like awakening or the conscious, and connected to the higher chakras of the spiritual, whereas the divine masculine, which again could be male or female, divine masculine is the sacred container, is the grounding cords, the like the lower three chakras, the that. So again, they've split into different aspects. but usually one will take the lead. Like one does the work and the
Okay.
other is the match. It's the mirror.
Mm,
So as soon as if you're in a twin flame scenario or relationship, you don't have to worry about, well, if I'm doing the work and they're not. It's
okay.
no, they will only align if you are doing the work. And as you awaken, they awaken. So it's like it is a team effort.
Right.
And then when you were both at that point where you've cleared enough of your stuff that you can come into union, then it's like then the union happens.
Okay.
So, but you guys are both mirroring things on every, so think of a spectrum. Remember, you come from the dark and the light, right? Or the light and the dark. You both are moving on that spectrum,
Mm,
clearing from both ends. So that one's working on the dark side, you're working on the light side, coming
right.
into balance. And every time you move a notch, they move a notch, you move a notch, they move a notch, until you are in balance and aligned and in union. So there cannot be, it is the default system. It is preordained if you do the work.
Right. And I love that. I think it's pretty neat because we're talking about potentially people that do not know the other exists, right?
Mhm.
And just as they move on, as the souls do what they have to do, wherever they are in the world, it sort of like brings them closer together until, it was decided between them that, okay, like we have by this time pretty much, right, to clear and to do that. Cool. So what about, yeah, tell me more about soulmate versus twin flames. Because
Okay.
for me, my definition of soulmate, I guess, it's specifically in a romantic relationship. I find that it's that one soul that you have this contract with to get together in this lifetime. What do you like? What's your definition?
So I would say, remember that like the twin soul or twin flame is you in the higher dimension. You're the
Hmm.
same.
Right.
So to me, this is a perspective of like dimensional levels. So again, going to that same dimensional level, like imagine the 5D,
Hmm.
that your higher self is in the 5D. Well, in the 5D, you have a soul family or soul group.
Hmm.
You could be all birthed from the same cosmic egg or whatever, but that's your group. So
Hmm.
when you incarnate together, your soul splits into the twin, but you can still have soul mates. That's your soul family
Okay.
that are you still have a connection with them in the 5D. But again, you had a game plan right before, and usually what soulmates will do is they are the healers. They're not the perfect mirror like your twin flame, but they are mirrors as far as like they're the friends that kind of like go on the journey with you
Hmm.
until you connect with your twin. So they're like your entourage,
Okay.
again, helping you heal. So you can have romantic relationships because maybe you need healing of the heart, that you can have non romantic relationships. You can have actually enemies out of your,
Hmm.
out of
Your soul family.
a soul family, like a soul mate, because those enemies need that. Someone's got to be the good guy and the bad guy, right? Depending on what lesson you want, they're
Hmm.
going to play that character for you
Right.
in that life. So that's more of like a soul mate, is those which help you align your energies even more so that you can eventually come into union with yourself. Kind of like
Mm.
the parents, the aunts and uncles, I guess, like they're
Right.
they're
Right.
helping you come into union, and then therefore come in union with that other part of your soul or your aspect, or again, if you're two whole souls, it helps you to come into union. So that would be like the soulmate. Can be
Mm.
platonic or romantic,
Hmm.
but I think of that more as a soul family. And that's why you have strong contracts or strong bonds. It's because those were made, they're just agreements made in the 5D, kind of like
Right.
the game plan before. So it's like, oh gosh, I have my love wrote this great poem, and I don't remember all of it, but I remember this one part where it's like two thoughts, one mind, two sounds, one song. You know, it's like all of these things, you can have many aspects of yourself, but
Right.
in the end, it's all one, right? And that's really just a perspective of really what we all are as aspects of source.
Right.
We are all individual aspects of the whole one, right? The whole, all that
Right.
is.
Yeah.
And a twin soul is really just a minute version of that exact thing, I
Mm.
feel. Like that universal division and separateness and yin and yang. It's just a deeper perspective of that, of oneself. Does that
I
make
love it.
sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. So then do you think that everybody has a twin flame? So do you
Hmm.
think that every couple is a twin flame or not?
That's a great question. So when we talked about like the 5D and souls being like in the 5, 6, 7D,
Hmm.
I feel like that's where we decide. Like we all were birthed from source. We all have a different pattern, vibration. You know, every soul is different. When a twin flame is born, there's like we said, there's two ways of it. There's more of the twin flame where it's one soul that splits into two into carnation, or the one where there are two holes that come more into integration.
Hmm.
So at that level, that's where it is. I think everybody could become, everyone is an individual soul, and everyone could become the monadic and integrate into a twin soul. Everyone
Okay.
has that potential, but they have to reach a certain level of evolution,
Mm.
right? Reach, they have to come into union with a certain vibration. And by doing that, they have to come into union with their own vibration first. So it's like know thyself. It's like step one. But then you have, again, I believe at that level, star seeds and old souls.
Hmm.
So I only believe that old souls will choose to become a twin flame or a twin soul or integrate with another soul, because again, you have to have that foundation in those higher dimensions. You have to have that foundation of a solid vibration of who you are. You have to have a
Mm.
healed self to ever come into union with another healed
Right.
self. There's the potential for everyone to become, if they choose, to become a twin. But again, that's more so ancient souls, old souls, bored souls, right? Because they've done it all and they're like, okay, what's the next adventure?
Right.
What's the next adventure? Let's do this. Make it that it's like level 2.
Right.
So let's take it to another further deeper self of self-knowingness, of self
Mm.
evolution. And then that's where you would choose to do that. So I feel like there's a lot on the planet right now. I feel in this Earth cycle, Earth started with, have you ever heard of the 144,000 like ascended or ancient ones, or the light beings, the Elohim? I believe
Yes.
that Earth started with a foundation of a certain amount of souls to hold the vibration
Hmm.
for Earth. And so I do feel like there's that, but I now there's more than the 144. But Earth's cycle did start with that many
Hmm.
twins. So there's a good amount. We
Right.
can very
Mm.
much meet other twins and have twin families and things like that.
And how would people know if they are in a twin flame relationship?
Oh gosh. So this is where I would say go Google, because there's so much information on
I
signs.
wouldn't
Yeah,
Google that though, because you risk of having a lot of weird stuff, kind of like those beliefs that in a twin flame like couple there, it's always like the narcissistic and the empath, and it's
true,
always like a toxic relationship. And so I don't really want to send the
true.
message across that that is true. If you're in a toxic relationship, I don't care what flame or soulmate or whatever, get out of that relationship. But so I've seen weird information out there. So
True,
from,
true,
you know,
there
what
is.
would you
I'm
say is
just
like the
saying
most, yeah, I know what
this
you
is
mean.
a
It's just like a lot
lot.
of
That's a
information.
lot.
I know. What would you say would be
Like,
like the most like, oh, like this is how I really feel it? How would you
yeah,
really
like
feel it in your bones?
some traits and similarities and things, like things some red flags, right? But first of all, I would like to say if you are I love what you said, Alex, is there is no excuse to stay in a toxic and narcissistic or whatever relationship.
Yeah.
Again, that's a lesson. That could be a soulmate. That might be your karma. But I'd like to point out right now that a actual twin flame is yourself, and you
Mm,
cannot do harm to yourself. So if you are in that kind of relationship, that is a sign that that is not your twin flame. A twin flame cannot hurt you on any level. They are only there to love you and give love. And even like I said, to the level that you are at.
mm-hmm.
And most of us will know our twin flame and not even know that that's them,
Okay.
because there is such a quiet, it's almost like they're not even there kind of thing, because they are you,
Mm,
you don't feel that there is no trigger. There
okay.
never is a trigger. And so that's why it's so easy to not notice, because we're so
Mm,
used to being distracted by the external and by the triggers. Some things that I would say, how would you know that you are a twin flame? Signs like you are always searching for the one. You feel a deep connection to, you know that there's someone out there for you,
mm-hmm.
and looking for that, I would say not fairy tale ending, but like,
Right.
and
Hmm.
you just can't find it, right? Also, I think the twin flame journey has very pivotal moments that I don't think I even realized I was on a twin flame journey until after. Then I look back and I'm like, oh, there's all these. I know that many people talk about the dark night of the soul and ascension and shadow work and um, things like that, and a connection to star seeds. If you are empathic and all of these things, if you are drawn to those, I feel that there's a possibility that you are a twin flame. Not saying that every star seed is a twin flame, but most twin flames are connected
Mm,
to those kind of paths, and being awakened and stepping onto their journey, because like you said in the beginning, is it preordained? Is it divine timing? I do believe that twin flames do map it all out. And
mm.
so part of that mapping is that soul's journey, which we find very often in the tarot,
Right.
honestly.
Right.
I would
Yeah.
say the major arcana is like a beautiful example of the basic twin flame and kind of the journey for all of us to come into union. And again, coming into union with ourself is the first step into coming union with our twin. So again, that is the basics and foundation. And so we all reach, the story of the major arcana. We begin life as the fool. We think we know it all. We're ready for new adventures.
Right.
And then it's like, then we find that magic within ourselves. The magician is number two. So we find that magic. We find out who we are. We try to figure out who we are. I would say that would be our early 20s, right? We're all
Mm-hmm.
trying to discover. And then we reach what is three, the empress, or
Yeah,
the
I think she's
yeah,
number
and then
three.
it goes the emperor. So it's like then we find that the feminine within ourselves, and we find the masculine, and then it would go through that
Mm-hmm.
tarot story where it's like eventually we have the tower card, the dark night of the soul. We reach a death, which is symbolic for being that phoenix rising, that
Mm-hmm.
rebirth within ourselves. So again, it's that story, and if you feel connected, I feel, to that story, that would be a huge connection, that you're on the journey. Yeah. To
Nice.
oneness, to wholeness, and to union, not only with yourself, but another.
Cool. This makes me think, this conversation made me think that maybe I'm on a twin soul flame, twin
You
Twin flame.
are!
Because
You
listen,
are! But you
like
already
seriously, it's crazy because the things you were saying, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't think about that. Just because of all the things that you read about twin flames, that's why I wanted to mention it. It's like so many like bad
Yeah.
information out
No,
there.
you're right.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like ever since I was little, I knew that I would marry someone by 24 and have two kids by the time I'm 30. I knew that. And so that's exactly what happened. I met my husband at 22. We got married. I was 24. I got my two kids before 30. Like, it was like, and then when I met him,
Just
the
you.
first thing that I said to my parents, I lived with my parents at that time. And I said, so
Like,
it
I
was a
found the
blind
one.
date. I met him, yeah, because we met online, like in a match.com. You remember back then? And
Yeah.
like we met for a first date. And then I came home and I was like, I'm gonna marry this guy. I said, he's exactly like me, but he's a guy. But I said, he's
Yes.
exactly like me. And so
Yeah.
they're like, oh, okay, like good for you. They didn't really believe me. But
Yeah.
yeah, like 9 months later, we were engaged and we got married the summer after that. So I feel like it was one of those things, like you mentioned, like you just know it.
You
And
know.
then there's sort of like this, I don't know. For me, it was like a feeling of just like a deep knowing, a deep intuition of just, I know that this is what's gonna
Yeah.
happen. And the fact, like you said, that they're like the same higher self and it's sort of
Mhm.
like mirroring each other, that's what made me think of, oh yeah, maybe that was huge. And even to this day, I feel like we grow together, which is the
Uh-huh.
coolest thing because we always talk about that. Like, some people, like one person in the relationship might grow,
Mhm.
with their spirituality or whatever it is. And then they kind of like grow apart. But we grow
Yeah.
like this. We're like, oh, bang, bang, up, up, up together at the same time. So
Yes.
that's really cool too. So I feel like that's what makes us so like strong because we're going together on the same path.
Yes. Yeah, usually on the twin flame path, you are both aligned with the same mission. That's another thing I didn't mention, but like that is the weirdest feeling once you've connected to that person and you know. And it's so funny that you say it's like me, but in a guy. I felt the same. I'm like,
Really?
me. It's me, but in a guy. Like, how
Right?
can we be that similar minded?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt
Yes.
like, oh, what a beautiful mind that is. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm actually able to talk to someone on my level. And it's not that my level is above others or below others. It's just somebody that is
Mm-hmm.
right there that I feel that I can open up to and I can speak to all the deepest, darkest things of my soul, speak
Right.
about and feel open. And it's that openness. And you do just know, right? It's this weird feeling like
Mm-hmm.
I my whole energy shifted, in fact. It was like I went from feeling alone to not feeling alone. Peace. I felt this just
Mm.
deep
Okay.
resonance of peace because for once I knew it wasn't, "Well, what if he likes me? What if I do this? What if I
Right,
do
right,
that?
right.
What if I mess it up?" All those fears flushed away because it was like, I just know.
Mm-hmm.
It's on this deepest level of knowingness that you just cannot be explained.
I
And
love that.
everyone else on the outside might look at you like you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, it's so fast, so
That
soon, and you're
happened.
so young," right? For you,
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
was
"Oh, but
young.
you're so young." But when you know, and you
Mm-hmm.
hear that in movies and you hear it everywhere, and you don't really understand it till you experience it.